All right, y'all, welcome back to Antiwar Radio on Chaos 92.7 FM in Austin, Texas. Streaming live on the internet, chaosradioaustin.org. And our first guest today is Howard Zinn. He's the highly acclaimed American historian, political scientist, social critic, activist, and playwright. He's best known for his bestseller titled A People's History of the United States, which I think pretty much everybody in Austin, Texas has read. And he is professor emeritus in the political science department at Boston University. He's got a new book out, A People's History of American Empire. Welcome to the show, sir.
Oh, thank you.
It's very nice to talk to you. And I have to say, I read A People's History of the United States years and years ago. And the way I remember it, I really, really liked the first half and not so much the second. I can't remember why, though. But here's the thing. You come from a left-wing perspective, myself from a very libertarian one, and yet I completely agree with you on your most recent article for Tom Engelhardt, where you talk about, as a young man, learning American history and trying to figure out when America became an empire. How long had America been an empire? And your conclusion basically seems to be was right around 1791, maybe even earlier.
It's interesting, especially since, in our traditional education, and I remember this very well, in our histories of the United States, there might be a chapter which would be called the Age of Imperialism. And it turned out, if you looked in this chapter, they were talking about the period between 1898 and 1903. That is, they were covering the
Philippine War.
The war in Cuba, the Spanish-American War, and the Philippine War. Mm-hmm. And that was it. That was the Age of Imperialism. But, of course, as you point out, it goes way back. It goes back to our expansion into Indian territory. What was that if not imperialism? Taking control of other people's land, driving the Indians westward and westward and westward. And, of course, then comes in 1846, and you're sitting right there in that territory, which we took from Mexico in the Mexican War. And first as the Lone Star State, but very cleverly engineered into the Lone Star State so that then we could win a war with Mexico and take virtually half of Mexico. So, imperialism has been a long period of expansion, not just a couple of years, and from right after the Revolution and up to the present war in Iraq.
And something that goes along with this, too, is bigotry and white supremacy and really, even more generally than that, just we, they, us good, them bad, we're on the side of Jesus, the shining city on the hill, they're Indian savages, and God wants us to kill them all and take their land. As
the Bob Dylan sings, with God on our side, and what you say is true, that racism and this hostility towards different people helps fuel this imperialism, gives it a special nasty edge. And so the Mexicans, when we go into the Mexican War in 1846, the Mexicans are inferior people, and we are going to bring civilization to them. The Filipinos are, dark-skinned, inferior people, and we're going to bring Christianity to them.
Well, and what's funny there, McKinley said, we're going to go Christianize the Filipinos, but they've been under the domination of Spain for, I forget how many hundreds of years before that, and they were already 70% Catholic at the time.
Well, McKinley didn't know very much. We have presidents who don't know very much.
I remember learning, I went to a private high school where I learned from an anarcho-leftist the history of the American Indian Wars, and I learned the phrase, nits make lice. Kill them all, men. Nits make lice. That means kill the women and the children, too, because they'll just grow up to be an Indian we have to fight later on.
Yeah. It's very sad that we grow up in this country and we get the impression from our history books and also from the media and certainly from our politicians that we are the greatest, we are the best, we are the good guys of the world, and but the fact is we haven't been good to other people in the world. Of course, we haven't been good to our own people either. We haven't been good to black people. We haven't been good to poor people. We haven't been good to immigrants. But we certainly have been very vicious and violent to other people in the world. And, it's not unpatriotic to say this. Some people think that if you criticize our foreign policy, if you criticize the government, if you take a critical look at our history, that you're being unpatriotic. But no, you're just being honest. And being patriotic doesn't mean a kind of blind support of the government. It means the support of the principles for which the government is supposed to stand.
Sure, and if you're interested in the future of your country, everybody knows that all empires fall, that if our society is going to last, if our Bill of Rights is going to last, it's going to be because we're very modest and prudent and dedicated to keeping our republic and not destroying ourselves like all other civilizations who've tried to take over the world have done.
No, you're right. A lot of people forget this, that empires don't last. They fall, they collapse. And they deserve to collapse because they're all built on the exploitation and the occupation of other people. And it's a whole different future for us if we stop being an imperial power and start taking the enormous wealth that we have, which we've been wasting on war, on violence, take this enormous wealth that we have and use it for people, use it for health care, use it for education, use it for children, use it for older people, use it to help people in Africa and in the Middle East. I mean, what we could do with this wealth if we weren't, we're spending $500 billion on the military in this year. This is incredible.
Yeah, and, even if they just didn't tax that money at all and just left it in the pockets of the people, we can all put it to productive use ourselves.
Right. Yeah. Now you're talking like a libertarian.
Uh-huh. All right. Now, I like this because I really see eye to eye with you a lot. I should have been interviewing you all these years. Let me ask you this. You bring up in your article how you were a bombardier over Germany, I think it was, in World War II,
yeah.
And it was during one of these missions that you struck up a conversation with one of your mates on the airplane who, right in the middle of it, was saying that this wasn't a good war, that this was an imperialist adventure as well.
That's right. There was a gunner on another crew, and we were talking, and we became friends because he liked to read books, and so did I. And one day he said to me, "You realize that this is an imperialist war, that both sides are imperialist. They're not really fighting for, freedom or democracy, and it's the British Empire and the American Empire and Stalin's Russia, and sure, the fascists are evil, but we're not good." And I was startled by this, really startled by this, and I didn't believe him, and I argued with him. But after the war, when I looked around and contemplated what we had done and saw Hiroshima and Nagasaki, how ruthless we had been. And the Nazis, of course, were more ruthless than anybody, but we were very ruthless. Nagasaki, Hiroshima, bombing Tokyo, killing 100,000 people in one night. 600,000 civilians in Europe died under our bombs. When I began to think about all of that, I thought, no, war solves nothing. And we had better turn our ways in different directions, And so my experience as a bombardier, while it led me at first to be an enthusiastic participant in war, it led me later to, right up to the present day, to oppose all wars. And, of course, the present war in Iraq is just a continuation of the attempt to create a bigger and more violent American empire.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, this is sort of out of order, but I just remembered part of the People's History of the United States is you quote extensively from the right-hand man, the Smithers, so to speak, to Zachary Taylor during the Mexican War. Is that right?